Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast, over 250 episodes strong. We're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Fransgrove from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc. How can you effectively market your business without missing out on precious family moments? That is what our guest Anneliese will talk about.
Today's topic is families need dad more than his marketing. Our guest today was Anneliese Vance. Never miss a moment is her company. And Anneliese is a fourth-generation female entrepreneur and dynamic podcast guest who offers specialized Google ad services through her company, Never Miss a Moment Consulting, aimed at dad-owned small businesses. Her services are designed to help these business owners reclaim their time, allowing them to focus on family without sacrificing their marketing efforts. From an early age, Anneliese was deeply involved in her parents' family business, learning the ropes of advertising through direct mail campaigns alongside her family members. This formative experience instilled in her a profound understanding of the sacrifices required in family-owned businesses and the importance of family presence. Today, as a mummy CEO of two young children and dubbed the human jungle gem by her kids, Anneliese is committed to empowering other family business owners. Her approach not only ensures that every marketing detail is meticulously handled, but also champions a business ethos where family always comes first, breaking the conventional notion that professional success requires personal sacrifice. What's your tagline in your business?
We take marketing off your shoulders.
As long as they're diapered, that's the really key. And beyond that, if I have to carry my young lad now, he's taller than me. I'd have a broken back.
Yeah, if they're small enough.
Can you share some backstory of your journey getting into the world of marketing, and particularly why you focused on dad-owned businesses?
Yeah, so I actually got started selling ads in the phone book back in 2007. And thankfully, they went to the digital era in 2008, very shortly. After I got hired, I have a PhD in marketing. I learned it all in the spot with real life experience, and Google certified, Microsoft certified, Facebook certified, every kind of certification you can think of. I earned through real life experience. And as far as dads, it's a two-part answer. One is they've always found me. It's just a niche that I just really get along with, probably because I get along very well with my own father. There's less drama dealing with men. They tend to want someone to take things off their shoulders more, and women tend to want to collaborate. It's just a better fit for my husband and me. But I also really enjoy our mission and knowing that we're impacting families.
Does hubby appreciate the marketing you do for him?
He always says that he makes my promises come true. So I find the clients and he runs our Google ad division. He is very good once the relationship is established with the client, but I've always been the business development. It's a very good partnership because he's better at what he does. I'm better at what I do. We both get to do what we enjoy. Good fit.
Awesome.
So you have a personal history with family-owned business. How's that reflected in your current business?
Like Bernie mentioned in my intro, I am fourth generation female-owned entrepreneur. So my mom owned a business from when I was born. I was home with her for the first 3 years before I went to preschool. My parents owned another business from when I was 11 to 14. I always say that I understand that there's not a Ferrari parked out back for every business owner. Some do, but a lot don't. I have personal experience with that as the daughter of business owners and now as the co-owner with my husband. And we always say that we get you because we are you and we know your real struggles. Maybe your kid is going through a sleep regression, or you had to have a tough conversation with your 11-year-old, or your 16-year-old was out all night and you didn't know where they were. We've been through all of those. There's a lot of empathy that we're able to provide, which is also why we really enjoy working with that sector.
But you mentioned your dad started working from home. How did that change things up for you? Is that kind of the realization that dad's home and then stay home, just time with family, kids? Is that part of the light bulb moment for yourself?
I think it definitely shaped it, Bernie. When I say this and I tell this story, and I say this every time I tell this story, I'm not throwing my dad under the bus. He is one of the hardest working, biggest hearted people that I've ever met. He's a baby boomer. My dad is 74. He'll be 75 in May. From what I understand, that generation, because of what they watched their parents go through, they didn't squabble over, this is what I have to do to make money. The saying, he can bear it. My dad always did everything with his family in mind. It's not like he wanted to leave, but he left every Sunday to go to the airport. He came home every Thursday. We lived a double life. We lived when daddy was gone with I don't think any woman is wired to be a single mom, but my mom particularly was not. I love her today. She's at my house and we just hung out this morning. But it's just really hard to play both roles. That's why, a little aside, single parents are some of my heroes because they're not wired to do both. When daddy was home, one thing my dad was really good at, and I just talked about this on Ernest James' Girl Dad podcast, where I got to talk about my dad, he was home and present when he was home. Work did not come into it. He was at every game. He was helping with homework. He was there for those tough conversations, except Sunday through Thursday. We got to talk at 7:00 every night. It was different when he was home for 3 years all the time. When daddy traveled, we got to go with him. It's the time of my childhood where I really felt like we were a family. And then at 14, when the business imploded, they were just part of the statistic of a lot of businesses that don't make it past 5 years. I knew what I was missing, and it was just at that critical time of life when I was 14. I probably made some decisions I wouldn't have made if my dad had been home. And that's not my dad's fault. I made those choices, but every girl, all they want to do is just have a relationship with their dad. It's just, I think it's hardwired into every daughter. I think knowing that I experienced that and that we could change that for my kids, because my grandfather was a war hero in World War II. My dad was raised where his dad left to go make money, and it was just this perpetual cycle. We figured out we were able to break it. My husband, his dad was his youth pastor and baseball coach until his third brother was born. So he had an older brother, him, and then a third brother and fourth brother was born 7 and 10 years later. And then his dad's time was split. And so we both got that taken away from us at very critical ages. I think that's one of the bonds we have as a couple, having that empathy for each other. We wanted to provide that for our kids, that mommy and daddy are going to go on dates. I just had to explain to my daughter before Knack that mommy and daddy are going on a date tonight and Gigi and Pops are putting you to bed. We're home 99% of the time. And not just one of us, both of us. They're with a parent like almost 100% of the time, except when they're with a babysitter, which is a really good friend of mine or family. And so they're always with someone that we can trust. I think that's what really shapes it. And I hope that I answered your question there. I think that's the essence of what you were asking.
A lot of our listeners are solopreneurs. You're a mommy CEO, and yet you have professional commitments. How do you weave those two so that both get done well?
With a lot of pre-planning, Wayne. I'm a big believer in time blocking. I think that kids need and crave routine. Honestly, what's wrong with our society today is there's not a lot of that routine for kids because they depend on that. They depend on knowing, hey, this is what's going to happen next. Monday and Tuesday, the kids go out with me. I give my husband office hours. He does that for me Wednesday and Thursday morning. Friday's our family day. We went off script a little bit this week. We went to SeaWorld yesterday and had a great time and survived with neither of them taking a nap, which, pray for me, that was a miracle. We include our kids. My son is going to be 3 in December. My daughter is going to be 5 in March. When my husband had to go take an offsite client and her buddy left, she was not happy about it. I explained to her that this was going to be for a season and we were working to bring daddy back home so that he could work full time in the business again. That process took about 18 months, a little longer than I wanted, but we were able to replace what he was doing outside the home in about 18 months. And so she went through a little bit of that loss, but she would know at nap time, mommy was going to do meetings and she was going to take a nap and bring daddy home. And she took that very seriously. And I told my husband, you always have to make it home. You can't stop off somewhere. You got to be home when she wakes up. But she keeps me on task. When she would say, mommy, how many meetings do you have during nap time? So she was my 2 and 3-year-old accountability partner at the time. They have a bedtime. We do a lot of stuff at the same time. And I get stuff done during nap time and after bedtime. When my kids are up, I'm with them. I think it's very important to be present. Daddy's with them too. Now, sometimes they'll know that, hey, daddy has to work for a client. We're going to go hang out. He'll meet up with us later. And my daughter knows that it's so daddy can stay home with us and not have to go leave again. But he's been with us for the last 5 months. The only way I can describe it, when my dad is in the house, whether it was younger or even now, when Pop walks through the door, when they came out of the bedroom this morning, my kids lit up. And it's nothing against my mom, but that male presence just changes the entire atmosphere. It's just like and even as a wife, though I'm advocating for dads on LinkedIn and I talk about it a lot, I'm as much advocating for the wife and the kids as I am for the dads. It's to take the pressure off the wife when daddy's home and can play roles that daddy is just more wired to play. It's nothing against women or that we can't do everything, but I believe women were designed to be really good at some things like nurturing, scheduling, planning. Not that men can't do those things, we're just better at them. My husband makes the grocery list. I go buy the things. He gets distracted and buys things that aren't on the list, right?
Yeah, I was on how else are we going to spice our life and do this?
Oh, he does that. He keeps me on my toes. Men have a deeper voice, and so he doesn't have to yell to get our kids' attention, where I've got to raise my voice because I have a different tone in my voice. And frankly, that just makes me feel icky. It's nice to be able to lean on my husband to do that. He's more fun. Bernie, he is my spice of life. He's taught me how to play, and I had to grow up very young, which is a whole nother topic. My husband's taught me how to play and have fun. He always jokes at Christmas, the renewal on my sense of humor is coming. Things are just more fun when he's around. We balance each other out really well. We became one when we got married. Neither of us were whole by ourselves, and we're able to provide that to our kids.
So when you're dealing with your client base, not at their home, right? But what strategies do you provide them? You have the lessons learned that you've encountered, and you've seen the results both growing up and in real time now. How do you relay that to the client base? It's listen, buddy, you're running 40 hours and you're running hot and heavy, and I've taken this load off. It's like getting AI packaged in there and sort some stuff up, the backfilling of that time. How do you work that into their strategy?
Yeah, so I always talk to my clients about delegation and that we want to collaborate with them because, and I'll give you for instance, we help a moving company, and sometimes the results that we're seeing on our end, just the data that we're seeing on our end, doesn't always tell the full picture. It might show that the leads are coming in, but he's going to tell me if they're actually converting. And so we talk a lot about roles of communication of, I'm going to communicate this. I need your input on this. And also, though, that I've got it handled, and they can go take that time. They can, whether it's a vacation or just a day trip or something, that they can relax, that we're taking care of them and we get it, and they're investing this money so they don't have to do it. But honestly, a lot of times we don't run into that with our clients because of the messaging and mission we communicate up front. Our clients want that, and they're really grateful for it. People that want to stick their hands in it just aren't a good fit. For us, we need people that know how to trust. And we actually had to let a client go about 5 months ago, right around the time that Dustin came home full time, because this guy just could not let go of control. He even made his own business cards. And I was like, dude, I could do that for you for $60. Go hire a print broker. He just had to have his hands involved in everything. As long as clients are willing to play their role, let us play theirs, there's generally a really good collaboration. But our clients know that we're big on letting the data speak. It's not about feeling, not about what they're talking about on the news. It's not about fear and all of that. This is what the data is saying. This is what we're going to go after. We're going to make changes based on the data and dial things in. That's a lot of how we do our strategy. And we do a lot of upfront laying of groundwork with our clients before we even get started in managing their expectations and making sure that it's something that they want to move forward with, because we don't have contracts. We believe that advertising should be performance based. And if it's not working, then I'm a marketing vendor broker, so I can refer you to someone else who will pay me to bring them leads. I always say I'm product agnostic. Just because we provide Google Ads doesn't mean that it's the best fit, but we're going to base things on data. That is something that I am very big on. We're going to make sure that there's a return on investment.
Watching as an outsider is that the pandemic seemed to have created culturally the move back home because it was law of the land. But I'm hearing from you that you were doing this before. So why do you think you're an outlier?
We've always been accused of being nonconformists. The life we are currently living, and by the time this comes out, I think I'll have announced this on LinkedIn, we've actually spent the last 5 months of our life in Florida. Everyone thinks that we're in Cincinnati, and we've been digital nomads. And we talked about us both being home. First, me being home at least. We wanted a parent home. The pandemic actually allowed it. They were like, you have a new baby, stay home. Owning the business allowed my husband, Dustin, to stay home. And we wanted to be able to live our life in other places. We didn't want to be tied down to one place and based on someone else's schedule. We eat lunch when we're hungry, or dinner when we're hungry, or go to bed when we're tired, not because we have to get up. My daughter, she's about to turn 5 in March, and the typical time she wants to have deep conversations is 11 or 11:30 at night. Yeah, she's 4. But we're not like, come on, hurry this up because we have to be up to go somewhere. And if I was in corporate, I probably would be that person, not because I don't love my daughter, but because just functionally we need to get sleep. But we can just go sneak in a power nap if we need to. Or, hey, I was up with her. Can you watch the kids for a minute? I'm going to go take a nap. Yes, I do take naps at 39 years old. And we can have our own schedule. That's something that we just always wanted. And yeah, it wasn't because someone told us we should. We just, good idea before. But great question, Wayne. I love it.
So if someone shows up and they're not a dad,
Yeah.
not a problem, right?
No, money is green. Not a problem.
Depends what country you're in, but yes, you're right.
While we still have paper money.
Family time is important. You also incorporate other elements that your marketing helps the client. In other words, time to eat, time to exercise. Do you actually wrap in other services outside of your marketing? Someone says, I don't know what to eat. Hot dogs are good, right? Pizza, hot dogs, and wings. Well, wings and ribs for me would be just an easy one, followed by pizza.
So I don't offer that. And I love that you asked that question. I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Big Leap, but it talks about having your zone of genius, your zone of excellence. And we really try and stay in our zone of genius. I don't try and do what my husband does with the Google ads, and he does not try and do business development. He would be exhausted. He has a very small social tank. This energizes me. Like, I'm jacked to be talking to adults, not toddlers right now. But I have a just unlimited pool of resources that I've met mostly on LinkedIn that I can say, hey, this is something I'm seeing. I know someone who could help you with this. Would that be a good introduction? And that's something that I do on the marketing vendor broker side of my business, referring them to Knack for business, or my young lady that does social media, or my young lady that does SEO, or a lot of our brokers our vendors are dads because they're able to relate with the other dads. So people that are in branding and graphic design. Since becoming on LinkedIn the mom that advocates for dads, which is a peer given title, I did not come up with it myself. they just love that there's a mom that's cheerleading for them. I have parenting coaches. I have a single dad coach and a blended family coach, just different people. If you want to help your kid get off screen time, we've got someone that helps with that. Industries, LinkedIn is amazing for finding people that you never knew were even a thing, right? Like I've met so many different coaches. It's unreal, but somehow they're all necessary. People have come up with these amazing niches to offer. And I love that I'm like, hey, I have someone for that, or I will find someone. That's what I'm famous for saying. I could guide you on diet, and that's another part of my background, but I know it's not my zone of genius. And I just like staying where I'm good at because that energizes me and keeps me energized for my clients and my family.
I often have two questions. One, I'd like to hear a success story where your services directly impacted a customer and it changed their business. I'd love to hear in the growing whether there was a spectacular train wreck that looking back taught you a great deal and you learned from.
Great questions again. Is the train wreck personally or for that client?
I don't care.
Okay, because I can answer this with the same customer. I mentioned the moving company, and I talk about them a lot because he's actually been with me since 2009 with my corporate career. He was my first client to follow me over the second day that I opened my business. And when I met him, just to protect the innocent, he was living off of credit cards. In his business, he was. And his successful way to mark a month is if he is busy at the beginning of the month, the end of the month, and weekends. I came in, I did know his account because I had built it. I didn't have a chance to work with all the other aspects of his business. So he brought me in as his CMO, which I still am today, which for those listening who might not know is Chief Marketing Officer. I told him, I will help you under one circumstance. He said, what's that? I said, you have to fire the competitor you are competing against with Google Ads. He goes, all right, you're the boss. Now he is busy beginning of the month, end of the month, weekends. He's off credit cards. And I sent him a text probably about a year ago. I said, hey, I just wanted to check in. This is what I'm seeing on my end. How's it going on your end? He said, I don't know. He goes, you're supposed to handle that. I'm on vacation with my granddaughter in South Carolina. And I was, because he literally would not have had the mental or emotional bandwidth to do that without us being able to help him. And he always says, if I'm not hearing from him, things are going well. Things are silent a lot. So that's good. And then the train wreck, I don't know that I define it as a train wreck, but for him, it definitely could have been. And we helped keep him on the track. So November, about a year ago, actually, right around this time a year ago, he was seeing really good results data-wise on our end, but on his end, he's okay, Anneliese, you're sending me this data, but it is not what I'm seeing. My phones aren't ringing. We're not converting the leads. Something is going on. I was like, all right, let's dig into it. I do his data monthly. I worked with his office manager. She started keeping track of all of the phone calls. What we found out was that there were bots that were stealing 40% of his ad budget. Had I not been paying attention, had his office manager not been paying attention, had we not been setting things up in a collaborative way to work together on communication, he probably would have gone out of business. It would have been an implosion, not just a wreck. The train would have just and done one of those like Tom and Jerry cartoons. What was happening was they were targeting service-based companies that served homeowners, but also those companies were hiring. They were scanning their form fills, filling them in with fictitious names, and somehow they were getting the money from the clicks, which was coming from a TikTok ad, which is how we figured it out, because the office manager was like, Anneliese, are we running ads on TikTok? And I was like, if you knew this gentleman, you would know we were not on TikTok. They were doing job applications. So French and Spanish speaking people were filling it out. They were calling, thinking that they were hiring. Somehow they had linked this ad to his Google ad. So they were clicking on the ad through, getting the money from it. Just couldn't go through with it. But we redid his website. I did what I called bot-proofed his website. It has been bot-proofed for 8 to 9 months now. And I actually opened up another division of my business to help other companies make their website bot-proof. which is a lot of common sense, but common sense is not always so common. So if you don't know what to look for, you're not going to know what to do. It ended up becoming this beautiful success story, but it was 4 months of hell for him. It could have gone really badly. Every time there's a challenge, and not against AI, I think it has its place. I just don't think we should turn our brains over to it. I think people do that because they just trust it too much. That is what we're seeing happen with Google a little bit. They brought in their AI and people are just going, oh, whatever Google says I should do with my ad campaign. Google is a business and they want your money and they don't care if it converts. They care if they get clicks. What happens after that? It's that they are heartless. It's just a business. That's the business they run, getting clicks. They leave it up to you to make sure it converts. And so if you're not working with someone that's going to make sure that those are converting, you're going to run into a lot of trouble. This is something we need to make sure we're ahead of the curve on in playing offense versus defense. We've been able to help a lot of our clients with that. So unfortunately, he was the guinea pig and lost some money through the process, but he knows when I have to dig in and find something, he goes, it's going to cost me, but it's going to work. I know you're going to turn it around. It built a lot of trust that we were able to figure it out as well. It brought his office manager more on board to know that, I was actually collaborating and looking out for them versus it just being talk. I'd say just looking back, there's others, but that's been a big one in our business.
If someone's listening to this program, what are the tells other than, hey, I'm showing traffic, but no money? So
Yeah.
how do you know it's a bot? Does it wave low, say I'm here, and then disappears or what?
So when I say the words click-through rate, what I mean is people see your ads on Google, which if you're not familiar with Google ads, if you do a Google search, the ads that are at the very top, it says ads are sponsored. Those are paid for people to show up on purpose. They pay to rent that space, so to speak. And when they're clicked on, what Google shows is the number of times they show up versus the number of times they're clicked on. That's called a click-through rate. We were seeing these huge 20% click-through rates, which is just really not realistic. We thought, oh, great, we're getting these 20% click-through rates. And he was like, that's great, but they're not converting. Another, if you have form fills, is if you see a lot of just nonsensical names, if you're calling, if they're not answering, if you're emailing, if they're not emailing you back, that's going to be a big telltale sign. If you have a huge form fill on your website, and I know a web designer is going to probably argue with me if they hear this, but bots scan that. They don't need to type anything. They don't need to be human. They just scan the internet for those. And so they were finding him completely left wide open, also having your email on your website. So what I coach people, and I'm giving away my secret sauce here, but that's okay, is I show people how to have a button that clicks through to the form fill on a hidden page and the email that's hidden, and they have to click on a button to do it because only a human can do that. So those are some big telltale signs. If you're getting calls about something you're not doing pretty consistently, that's a big sign. The Spanish wasn't so big a deal because he's in Cincinnati. And it's not as prevalent as like in Florida, or Orlando, where we're currently at with my parents. It's like the United States of Hispanica here, which is fine. I got to practice my Spanish, but French was really strange. So if there's just something like your gut's like, this seems off, it is something that you probably want to take a look at.
Here's a question that is going to make you think. You are a mompreneur, and one of your target markets is the dadpreneur.
Mhm.
As you succeed, there's a potential that big corporation could be hollowed out. Do you think they will find a way to federate to come back, or are they just going to become like those bad movies in the West where the tumbleweed blows by?
Oh, it's a really good question. I, without going political here, have a lot of hope for our next 4 years. The family-owned operation is very resilient. We have to figure things out. Like you mentioned in some earlier questions, I have to figure out how to be a mom to 2 kids under 5, a wife, a daughter, still make some time for myself, right? So I think that they're up for a fight. but I think that it's one that we're ready for if they want to stay in business. Some people will take it as their excuse to get out, and there's no shame in that. But I think that family owned businesses, at least from my perspective, if it's passed down from another generation, they want to honor their parents. If they started a business, they feel like we can do something better than someone else can. We started our company because I was wrongfully terminated from a company that I had been a star at for 14 years and was just very unappreciated because I wasn't fitting into their mold anymore. They started going more overseas than keeping things in America. And they were more about profit than the people that were serving them, the sales reps and the companies that were paying them revenue. They just lost sight of it. And so that's something that we wanted to provide. And I feel very strongly in my gut and my heart about that topic. And as hard as things get, I'm going to go down swinging.
You find that that's a transition, outsourcing a job, outsourcing it out of country. We see that here in Canada. You guys have it in the States. Somewhere business goes to the States, Mexico, or overseas. What are the trends that are out there? You have digital transformation. So we touched on bots. Where do you see the trends in the digital transformation? It might be around for a bit more, but virtual reality is cruising into the space. There's more stuff getting integrated into it. Where do you see the transformations leading, and so that we keep our human touch, keep that connection?
Yeah. So the biggest that I'm seeing right now, and I touched on this earlier, I don't think people mean to turn their brains over. I think that they're optimistically trusting. My husband, he's a martial artist and he was going to a judo tournament up in Cleveland about 4 hours away, and he rented a car. It was one of those ones that had the self-driving. And now when he gets in the car, he'll turn it off because he almost got run into a truck. Sometimes AI just misses it. They're not humans. They're a program. It's put stuff in, you hope you get good stuff out, and they're not perfect, and they will never be completely perfect. Now, neither will humans, but at least we care when we screw it up. And I'll give an example of this. We have a client, it's a jeweler, and if you're listening to this, we've already apologized for it. We were down in Florida during the back-to-back Hurricane Helene and Milton. My husband went in to provide and protect for his kid and his wife role, and he forgot to edit the daily budget on the Google ads. 1 month it spent 20% more than it needed to. Now, it made them a lot of money. It ended up okay. We reduced it 20% the next month, and then we put it back. And you know what? My husband apologized, right? AI will go, oh, there's a lot of traffic going on. I'm going to spend more of your budget. If the company doesn't have the budget to spend, that's not good. Or we have a locksmith that they always want to put under auto locksmith. He doesn't do any of that. We've run this campaign for 4 years. Bernie, you would think after 4 years they would figure out we should stop suggesting this. No, they keep suggesting it. Or, oh, it's Halloween. Do you want to run your ads on Halloween night? No, probably, because no one's probably searching for movers. I want to pause it. I want to hold on to my money. Those little human touches of just caring, I never think that AI is going to be able to keep up with. And it doesn't make it bad. We use a lot of AI in our business when it makes sense, but we're not just having the plane on autopilot. We're keeping an eye on what's happening with the plane. And if it's going down, we're taking back over the controls. So those are some of the biggest things I'm seeing. I think the AI means well. It's just not human, not perfect. And again, humans aren't perfect either, but we care and we'll make it right, or we'll do our best to do that. Great question.
I got thinking about late night Halloween moves, and it opened my mind in a whole different way. 2 questions. One, how big is your geography? I know technically if you have an internet, you can serve the world, but you might have a geography that you want to specialize in. How do we find you?
Yeah, so our geography is actually all over the world. We're mostly in the US. We do have clients in Canada. Where are you guys at? We actually have clients over in England, and we have a nonprofit that's over in Moldova near the Ukraine border to help them get funding, and they're literally saving children's lives. And where you can find me, I mostly hang out on LinkedIn. My name is hopefully on the show notes and on the title. It took my husband 3 weeks to learn to spell it. I'm mostly there Monday through Friday, sporadically on the weekends, and also at nevermissamomentconsulting.com on our Let's Get Started page. I do answer all of those myself. I don't have a VA or AI doing that. That is me answering. If you mention Knack for Business or K for B, we do have a first-time offer package for all of our podcast listeners, where you just have to let me know that you found me here. It helps me keep it straight. And that's where you can.
Thank you, Anneliese Vance, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. So, your dad or mom with kids, this is help you out of your CMO position, the marketing position. It's fractional. Makes life easier. You get to spend more time. Plus, you have a sidebar offer of you getting a discount, just mentioning Knack for Business or K4B.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email Wayne@motivateuca. That is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website motivateu.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Jalvin Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.